Hi, Grandma.
Hi.
How are you today?
Oh, pretty good.
Yeah, how you been feeling?
Oh, pretty good.
Yeah?
Mm-hmm.
How old are you now?
I'm going to be 92 pretty soon.
Yeah. Amazing. Why don't you tell us your name and about who your parents were and your grandparents, siblings, and your children?
Well, my dad was Robert James Boyer, and he was a direct descendant of his little boy that was killed in the rebellion, the Tosh Rebellion. And my mom was Mary Leona McDougall. She also was a direct descendant of the McDougalls that moved to St. Louis in 1882. In 1882, there were 5 families that came from the Red River settlement, and they settled on the part, south part of the river, South Saskatchewan River. And there were the Boyers, the Bremners, the Bouchers, the Lapines, and the McDougalls. There were only those 5 families. So when they settled in St. Louis, most of them had quite large families, so they were all intermingled. So I'm related just about to everybody in St. Louis. And my grandparents, my great-grandfather, Ferguson, was from Ireland. He came over when he was a little boy, 13 years old, as a stowaway, and he was feeding cattle. He was living with the cattle on the boat that was coming, and they settled in Montreal, and that's where he learned to speak French. And he spent a few years in Montreal, and then he traveled west a little bit at a time, and then he met this Métis girl, because there were a lot of Métis girls around the Red River settlement. And then he came, he was, I called him, I told my mom, I said, your grandpa must have been a Pony Express guy, because he used to deliver the mail from Winnipeg to Humboldt and that on horseback.
Oh, really?
And later on, he used to carry it wasn't Pony Express anymore, he used to carry the mail in a cutter or a sleigh, whatever, and he'd bring the mail to Humboldt, and later then he'd bring it to St. Laurent, and he did that for several years, and they had the post office in St. Laurent. Oh my God, they must have, my aunt was the last one of the family that had the post office in St. Laurent, and that must have been, I'm trying to think. In 1954, they still had the post office in St. Laurent. And then after that, they closed the post office and everything. The mail was coming from Duck Creek. They delivered the mail from Duck Creek to Batoche and St. Laurent.
Really?
And in fact, it was Cindy's great uncle that was delivering the mail. Mr. Charles Pilon was delivering the mail from Duck Creek to Batoche and St. Laurent. And my great-grandma, not my great-grandma, my grandma, was educated at the old mission in St. Laurent. There was a mission there, and then she became a school teacher with a grade 7 or 8 education. But she taught school only in French. Her education was only in French, but later on, she learned to read and write in English, but when she wanted to write letters, it was mostly done in French. So I was the only one that followed in her tracks to become a school teacher. Nobody else in the family became school teachers.
How many siblings do you have?
I had three sisters and one brother. My brother died at the age of 56 of a massive heart attack. He was dancing in powwow down in the States. And Bob was a teacher at the University of Regina. He was the art teacher. And then he was very busy because when they were planning the Natives University, he was back and forth to Ottawa making plans and stuff. And now his artwork is going all over the world. I asked him once, I said, is that true that artists become famous only after the... Yeah, most of the time. He said, I don't think I'll ever become famous. He says, maybe if I die I might. He said, which is true. And his paintings weren't really recognized that much when he was living, but now that he's dead,
I saw his work at the new Remy Art Gallery in Saskatoon. I saw some of his work there.
And yes, I went to the McKinsey Art Gallery in Regina.
Okay.
And I saw a lot of his original paintings, especially his blanket paintings. Yeah. And with his paintings, he put in a lot of history with the paintings.
Right. So you guys seem really educated. So you were a teacher, and your brother taught at the university, you said?
He's a university teacher. He had his PhD.
So do you think that's because your grandmother was a teacher, that you guys are all... Because how did it come to be that you're a teacher as well?
I don't know. I think my dad believed in education, and we all got an education, except my sister, the one that is next to me. She never liked school. And when I graduated from high school in June, she was going to be 15 in September. And she told my mom, Sis is graduating, she's going to teacher's college, but I'm quitting school. And my mom said, you're not quitting school, you're not even 15 yet. Well, I'll be 15 in September. And my mom said, well, I think you better find a job. If you're going to quit school, you better find a job. And my mom thought, oh, she'll never get a job anyway, so she'll probably be going back to school. The funniest part, she went downtown, went to the store, asked Mr. Phaneuf, do you need any help? Oh, yes, he said, we need help in the store. We need the living quarters was with the store. He said, we need help with Antoinette's housework, and we need help in the store. Are you available right now? Right now, she said. I can start right away after lunch. So she walked home, and she told my mom, I'm not going back to school. Oh, are you sure? Yeah, I'm sure I got a job. Where the heck did you get a job? Oh, I got a job at the store, she said. And then my sister, Priscilla, she graduated from the academy here in PA, and she worked at the bank, and she was a bank manager for several years in Regina.
Wow. And
then Bob was a professor at the university, and my baby sister Gloria was a social worker. Because your grandpa, boy, you remember Grandpa?
Yeah.
He really believed in education.
Yeah, you can tell. That's impressive, for everyone to be educated like that. And I'm just curious, so what were your options? Like when you were deciding, did you have a lot of options? Like, or you just knew you wanted to be a teacher, or what was?
Well, I'll tell you the truth. I really wanted to be a nurse. But my father was totally against his daughters becoming nurses. He did not like the nursing profession. So then I became a teacher. But the nuns always told me I should become a teacher. Because I always had very, very high marks. My marks were always way up in the 90s. And I really enjoyed going to school.
And you're really good at math. I know that you're really good at math. You've been.
Maybe I should have been a math teacher. But I did get a very rude awakening when I started teaching school. I started teaching school in 1945, and I went up to north of North Battleford. It was a small country school between Jackfish Lake and Cochin. And there were several Métis. I knew they were Métis, but they didn't admit that they were Métis. And in those days, I had to teach La CFC French to them. I was teaching La CFC French, and I was teaching catechism. And this one priest that did come to Batoche, he's a Father Dubuc, came to Batoche, and I knew him because he was the priest in Cochin at the time. And people were terrified of him because he used to tell them, if you do this, if you have parties Saturday night and you don't go to church, or everything's going to go up in smoke, and oh my God, he had people so terrified that he had some terrible stories. And he used to drop in at the school once in a while. But him and I didn't get along very good. When he was in Batoche, I was teaching Gabriel school at the time for 5 years, and he was a priest in Batoche. And him and I, we kind of locked horns most of the time, so. I was a very stubborn person. If I had something on my mind, nobody changed it, so. And he was the same way. Having a real squabble with him. He'd drop in at any time, and he dropped in at one day after school. And it was right after All Saints' Day. And I had told my students, because I had several Greek Orthodox Ukrainian students that were Greek Orthodox. So I told them, the Catholics, if you want to go to church on All Saints' Day, on holy days, you're welcome to go, but I will not mark you present in my register. But you know how kids are, they understand, sometimes misunderstand and that, so. Anyway, Father Dubuc came after school, and he said to me, Sophie, I've got something to talk to you about. And I said, oh, what? What's this I hear that you don't want kids to go to church? He said, on All Saints' Day, if they don't go to church, you're not present. I said, no, Father, I never said that. I told them that if they want to go to church, they're welcome to go to church, but I will not mark them present in my school register. And he said, well, you should. And I said, well, listen here, Father. I have a job. I said, I can't close the school down on All Saints' Day. I said, because I'm teaching in the school unit. This is not a separate school that I'm teaching in. Mm-hmm. I said, I cannot close the school down. And I said, what if the inspector walked in and see only 8 or 9 students in school? And I have everybody marked present. He said, well, what's going on here? Where are all those kids that are marked present and they're not here? I said, I had to tell them the truth. They're not here. So anyway, we argued, and he kept on the table, and he said, you better tell those kids to come to church. and you can march in dress. I said, I will not. I banged on the table too. Well, I said, I'm sorry, but I think you're just as stubborn as I am. I said, I guess so, maybe more, I told him.
I'm shocked that you just, I don't know, I just picture a young woman against a higher in status man to stand up for yourself. Where would you have, like, does that come from women in your family that you would be so assertive and to stand up for what you believe in? That takes courage. Did you learn that from somebody, or is it, how did it come
I
out?
think I took that from my mother. My mother was a tiny little, you remember Granny, she was a tiny little woman, but she was very stubborn. And I think I got my stubbornness from her. Which, well, I don't only think, I know it. But I always was, my mom always said, you're the most stubborn person I ever saw in my life. And I said, well, I guess I take it honestly. But I am very firm in my opinions, and I will never argue unless I'm 99% sure of what I'm arguing about.
Right.
Because I like to be right. And if I'm going to lose an argument, I won't argue anymore because it's useless. But I will argue right to
To the bitter end.
I just can't. I will not stop arguing if I know I'm totally right.
Just so you were teaching French, was that your first language, or what language did you speak when you were growing up?
I spoke both.
English and French?
Mm-hmm.
And what did your parents spoke both too, or?
My dad did not speak very much French because he worked for the CNR and he was always away. So he did not speak very much French. But my grandma boy always lived with us, and my mom, they always spoke, and my grandma McDougall also always spoke French, but it was Métis French. And I remember when I was going to school and I was learning French, let's say French. Those funny words, they're so different to what you And I mentioned that to my mom. Oh, well, that doesn't matter. She said, we just talk like that anyway. But you see, they were speaking the Métis French.
Right.
And I was taking the CFC French. So I couldn't understand why there were a lot of words that were totally different to what I knew.
Where were you born?
I was born in St. Louis.
Okay.
Right in the house in St. Louis there. And Grandpa Boyer always said, oh, you're just a bridge baby. Because that was the year that they put the wings on the bridge, the traffic bridge. And they had put in July, I think it was. And I was born in December, and Grandpa always said I was just a bridge baby anyway.
So you were born in St. Louis, and did you spend your childhood there, and you went to school there?
I spent I made my first communion there, my confirmation. In fact, it was the same old priest that married Grandpa Boyer, and he baptized me. I made my first communion, I made confirmation, and my solemn communion. I don't know if you know what a solemn communion is. I could get into that later. And then he also married me, and then he baptized Auntie Lorraine. So he was a priest, I think, for 26 or 27 years.
At the birthing practices, Sophie, when you were born at home, do you remember if there was like midwife? What were the birthing ways when you grew up?
Pardon?
The women delivered babies at home?
Yes.
Who helped the mothers and the women?
when my sister Priscilla was born, I was just about 13 years old. My mother stayed in bed for 10 days and did absolutely nothing for 6 weeks. So I was going to be 13 years old. I had to take over the household. I learned to bake bread, did all the chores, come home from school. My sister Marie and I would go home from school and wash on the board. We'd wash the diapers and hang them out to freeze because Priscilla was born at the end of February. We'd hang them on line so that they froze, and then we'd bring them in to dry.
Really?
So it was kind of a busy time for me, going to school and then coming home and doing the work. And on Saturdays we had this big living room and kitchen to do, and we had to use that old wax there that came in a can, and then you kind of let it dry for a while, and then you had to shine it, and it had to be sparkling shiny too. That was Saturday's work.
So in your house, did you live with like just your immediate family, or did you have your grandparents that lived with you?
Grandma Boy always lived with us.
Okay.
Yeah, she was a cripple,
Okay.
so she didn't do very much around the house.
And
But she did a lot of sewing.
Was that her house that you were born in, or that was?
It was their house, my Grandpa Boyer and my grandma's house. But then, you know how they give stuff to the kids, so it was given to Grandpa Boyer.
Okay.
Because Grandpa Boyer was the only boy, eh?
Oh.
Well, he had two brothers. He had an older brother that had a sawmill accident. He slipped and fell and he got cut in half.
Oh.
And then he had a younger brother that died at the age of 15 or 16.
Oh. So when you were born in the house, like, would there have been a midwife there with your mom, or how?
Oh yeah, there was midwife.
Okay.
And her mom also, because her mom delivered 98 babies.
Oh, her mom was the midwife's mom, or your mom's mom?
My mother's mother
Okay.
was there with the midwife.
Oh, okay.
But because she didn't want to deliver her daughter's baby by herself, you know, it's kind of cagey, I guess, to do that.
Okay.
And but she used to go around delivering babies. She delivered 98 babies.
Really?
Yeah, she
Your
told
mother's? Your grandmother?
my grandma.
Oh, what was her name?
Uh,
What was her name, your grandmother who delivered babies?
Matilda McDougall.
Wow.
Mathilde. They always call her Mathilde. Like in French it would be Mathilde, but you know in Michif it's a Mathilde.
And when you had your children, did you have them at the hospital, or?
I had Lorraine at home. I was supposed to go. I was staying at Grandpa Boyer's in St. Louis.
The same house that you were born in?
Yeah.
You had your first?
Yeah, because yes, I was staying there, figuring I was going to come to Prince Albert to have my baby. We got a big snowstorm.
Oh my goodness.
I went into labor, so Auntie Lorraine was born at home.
Who helped you?
2 old ladies.
Really? That's amazing.
Yeah.
That you had your child in the same house
Yeah.
that you were born in. So, can we get back to St. Louis? So you grew up there. So, can you talk about how it's changed, or what it was like when you were a little girl and how it's changed now?
Oh my God, when I was a little girl, there weren't too many people in St. Louis. And we lived tomorrow, show Cindy where our house was situated, and it was close to the convent. I went to the convent all my life. And then after that, I went to teach college. And I taught school at Lecoq for 3 years. That's west of St. Louis. I taught school there for 3 years. And that also was a Michif settlement. Like I taught school, like I said in Jackfish, that little school where there was some meat, but they wouldn't admit that they were Métis, but I knew they were, because some were Nolans, and you know, the Nolans, they're Métis, but in those days they did not admit that they were Métis. And then I taught school in the Cock for 3 years, that was Métis settlement. And then I taught school in the Craig, which also was very Métis. And then I taught school in Gabriel for 5 years there, but that also is a very Métis settlement. Very, very Métis. But the funniest thing was I had some Ukrainian students, several Ukrainian students, when I was teaching Gabriel. And you know that they spoke Métis French.
Really?
Oh yes, they spoke it very fluently because they were born and brought up in the Métis settlement there,
Okay.
around Gabriel, and going to school all the time with the Métis children. They spoke Michif, which is really funny.
So St. Louis is really small. So, and you talk about those 5 original families. So
Mhm.
when you were growing up, it was still pretty small, and were you guys a close-knit community and lots of visiting together, or what was that like?
Well, I'll tell you the truth, we were so close to the church, and that on Sundays after church, we always had a house full of people. Because I always called them uncles, like Father Andre's dad, I always called him Uncle Sam. They were my dad's cousins, but you know how Michif people are. If they're an elder, it's mon oncle and ma tante, eh? It was mon oncle Sam, mon oncle Jean. And they'd stop in and have coffee or tea, and lots of times have dinner at our house. So, and that was the same way, like when they had the church holidays, like All Saints Day and Holy Thursday, and they'd come to church. Mass was at 10 o'clock in the morning. So after church, they'd flock into our house, and my mom had a big teapot about this high, one of those big aluminum teapots, and that was always sitting on the stove, and everybody was welcome to have a cup of tea. We never drank too much coffee in those days. Once in a while we had coffee, but we drank a lot of tea. And Grandma Boy, she really liked to she was always inviting people, you know, to have bannock and jam or toast and jam or something, you know, with their cup of tea after church. It was kind of a drop-in center, which was a lot of fun because Sunday was a visiting day. People did not work on Sundays. The farmers did their little bit of chores, the bare necessities on Sundays. It was a visiting day. And lots of times they'd stay after dinner and they'd play cards all afternoon, and then they'd say, oh, well, it's time to go home and do chores. So they'd go home and do their chores. So that was, there was no shows to go to, there was no entertainment. We got our first radio in 1933. There were only 3 other people, only the 3 storekeepers that had radios. We were the first people to own a radio in St. Louis.
Oh, really?
Apart from the storekeepers. So on Saturday night, oh, this was just amazing. The first Saturday that we got a radio, our living room, people sitting all over listening to the NHL hockey. that was so exciting, and people were just jumping up and down. Somebody's going, oh boy, oh boy. It was so, and the men would really get excited, but the ladies, sometimes one would bring a pint of cream, somebody else would bring a raspberry jam or a cake, a nice white cake and stuff, and there was lunch for everybody.
Really?
Oh, somebody else. That was the same way. We had so many dances in our house.
In your house?
All of a sudden, oh, we're going to have a dance here tonight. They'd roll up the linoleum, and then somebody come with the fiddle, somebody else with the guitar, and you start dancing, And again, the ladies would bring lunch. It was surprise parties. It was really lots of fun.
Wow.
And I used to watch, we had this big stove in the middle of the living room. And of course, they had to take the stove out so they could dance. And I was little, I was sent to bed. I was supposed to be in bed, but I didn't go to bed. I'd sneak and I'd watch the people dancing. Oh, and I was having fun. I had lots of fun.
So what kind of food, so that was more party food, you said you did like cakes and things like that. So what other was like regular food that you would eat when you were growing up?
Oh, it was mostly meat and potatoes and vegetables like turnips and carrots and then we only had lettuce salad when the garden was ready and the lettuce. So we never went to the store to buy it. Of course, they never even carried that kind of stuff in the stores when I was growing up. You never have lettuce or tomatoes or stuff like that in the stores, never.
But did you guys have a garden when you were a girl?
Oh yes, don't talk garden to me because
Okay.
Grandpa was working on the CNR and he'd plant the garden, and Grandma, you remember she had eczema really bad and she was allergic to the soil.
Oh.
And I think sometimes it was a good excuse. Because she didn't like gardening. So Auntie Marie and I had to weed the garden, take care of the garden, and pick the vegetables because she had eczema and it bothered her hands to go. Auntie Nora and all when we go to dances to have a whale of a time.
Good starting point of dances.
Going where? Which one? Which place?
Pardon?
I say going where? Which place?
Yeah. Oh,
Like
it
over
was
by
all
house
house parties, really.
Yeah,
in those
house
days.
parties.
Yeah.
Mm.
It really danced up a storm.
Love to dance.
And you were telling us about your fundraisers that you would do at some
Oh,
time?
yes. We used to have, when I was teaching school, like in Lecoq and in Gabriel, we'd always have a Christmas concert. And at Christmas concerts, we'd have a Christmas tree and a Santa Claus to give out gifts. But so that we could get gifts for the kids, we had to have fundraisers. So we used to have dances and pie socials and box socials. Well, the box socials were so much fun because the girls would bring all these fancy boxes, decorated the boxes really nice, and if the guys thought they'd go around, they'd kind of check out the boxes, and if one was a bit heavy and that, there must be a bottle of wine in there, so they'd be, and most of the time they had to, the box that they bought, they had to have lunch with that girl or something, eh?
Oh.
So lots of times they thought, oh, well, if they were struck on a girl, they figured it was her box. Well, they bid up to $25,
Oh my
because they wanted to. And lots of times it a lot of disappointment.
Was it a surprise? Like, did you have to guess whose box it was, or would
well,
it be
they find out only after.
Only after.
Yeah, when it was lunchtime, well, then they found out who. Like I said, there was a lot of disappointments because it wasn't the girl that they figured.
Well, like, what are in the boxes? So it's not wine all the time. So like, what do you put
Oh,
in the
they
boxes?
make a fancy lunch.
Oh, like food things.
It's sandwiches and cakes and cupcakes. I have to tell you this is funny though. Uncle Wade talked about his grandpa going to the box social. And he bought this girl's box and there was fancy cupcakes in it, so he started eating the cupcakes and he said, holy smokes, these are pretty tough cupcakes. He was eating with the paper. He hadn't taken the paper off the cupcake.
That's funny.
Yeah.
So you participated in that? You made a box as well?
Mm-hmm.
When you went, you would bring things too?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. And sorry, going back to when you were young, what was a typical day like when you were growing up?
Typical day?
Yeah, just when you were a little girl. Just an ordinary day. What did it look like?
Oh, just get up, go to school.
How did you go to school? You walked there?
Oh yeah, because I just had about a little over a walk to go to the convent.
Oh, okay. So you'd walk with your sisters to school?
Hmm?
You'd walk with your sisters?
Yeah, oh yeah. I remember when Auntie Marie started school, Grandma Wade said to me, make sure your little sister has her toque on and her mitts and make sure she got her boots. You're the big sister, you have to take care of her. And when I started school, Marie and I were always so close. We were just about like twins because there were only the two of us in the family all the time. And she got very lonesome for me, I guess. So she snuck away from Grandma. She went to the convent, rang the doorbell, and Mother Superior asked her where she went. Oh, she said, I'm coming to get my sister. She has to go home right away. So Mother Superior thought, oh, there's something serious going on, eh? So she came into the classroom and she said to Sister Marie-Adelaide, Sophie has to go home right away. She said her sister's here to pick her up. So I got dressed and went home. Mom said to me, what the heck are you doing from school? I said, Marie came and got me. She said, I had to come home from school. Get the heck back to school right now, she said. And then, I had some Anglican friends. They were very close friends when I was maybe in grade 2 then. And the Anglicans didn't have to stay for catechism. They were allowed to go home. So I thought, oh, they can go home. I'm going home too. So I went home. I went back pretty quick. My mom asked me what I was doing. I said, I'm just not going to take any more of that damn catechism myself. I used to get into some mischief too, I wasn't a saint.
So you'd get up, you'd go to school, and then after school, what did your day look like?
Well, when I got home, most of the time I had some work to do. And then I'd have supper, do homework, and after I got my homework done, either learn to knit, crochet, or embroider, and I learned to darn. I had to darn socks. Well, I didn't like that. I didn't like darning.
So did you guys do that together? Like as a family, would you sit together in the evenings and
Oh yeah.
do your...
Grandma Boy, and Granny and Marie and I, that was our evenings.
Oh, nice.
And when Grandpa would come back from work with the CNR, we used to play a lot of board games like cribbage and checkers and with Grandpa.
Nice.
We were always anxious for Grandpa to come back from working on the CN, and then it was more of a holiday. We didn't have to do embroidery or stuff like that. It was more fun playing cribbage and checkers.
So where was he? Like, how long was he gone for at a time?
Well, sometimes he'd be gone just about all summer.
Oh, really?
Hmm. And you know, in those days, he probably, most of the time he got laid off about, in November, late November. It was really cold already. But there was no unemployment insurance in those days. So they had to save money over the summer to tide you over the winter. But Grandpa had a little business going in the winter time. He was a barber by trade, and he had his pool room and his barber shop.
In the house?
No,
Oh.
that was right on Main Street in St. Louis there.
Oh, okay.
So that's what he did in the winter time. He made a little bit extra money. But, you know, over the summer he had to save money for the winter and stuff like that.
So he was working on the trains? Is that
On the track.
on the track? Where?
Well, different places. The 1 year, I remember 1 year he was working in Big River, and then sometimes in Shelbrook. And he worked in Waka, well, different areas.
But
so
not-
it depended where they sent him.
So not in St. Louis? Like, when was the train in St. Louis?
Oh, I don't know when the train started in St. Louis. I know it was there. The railroad bridge was there before I was born. But when Grandpa started working, he started working in Manitoba, in Emerson, Manitoba. And the picture must be still at Auntie Gloria's because Granny had all her pictures there. There's a picture of Grandpa Boyer when he's 16 years old. He was working on building the bridge in Emerson, Manitoba. And there's a picture of him right on the very peak of the bridge. And it's just a small snapshot about this big.
Oh, really?
And it's in Granny's album, and that would be at Auntie Gloria's. But Grandpa Boyer was 16 years old then when he was working on, and that was his first experience working with a railroad company, like, you know.
Hmm.
And then after that he was working, but I know he worked, well, I barely remember this. One summer he worked from St. Louis and Hoey area on the track. But that I barely remember because I was pretty young.
Okay. Did you ever travel anywhere? Like, did you mostly
When Grandpa was working for the CN, we got free trips on the CN.
Really?
So every year after Grandpa was laid off, we'd go on a trip. So we'd go to Saskatoon. It was always the same trip. Saskatoon, Regina, and Moose Jaw. Saskatoon, Regina, and Moose Jaw. We'd make because we had relatives in Saskatoon, had relatives in Regina and Moose Jaw. And that was our big trip. And we'd go for about 10 days or 2 weeks after Grandpa got laid off. And that was our big holiday.
Hmm. So you didn't stay on the train though? You just would travel to Saskatoon and then stay with your relatives?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Actually, it was a very cheap trip. It was free on the railroad, and then we visited with the relatives. It didn't cost anything, but we did go to the show.
Like to the movie theater?
It was black and white movies for a while, and then it got to be the colored movies. Because when we'd go to Saskatoon or Moose Jaw, we always went to the movies, which was a great thing.
Yeah.
It was lots of fun. And later in St. Louis, there was a guy that used to come once a week, and that was Wednesday night. And at first, it was all silent movies. I think it cost us 10 cents to go to the movies or something like that. It was very cheap anyway. But there was no talking, no sound. And then later on, well, we called it the talkies, but it was still black and white movies, and that was once a week. So. And then all of a sudden, I don't know if he went out of business or what, he wasn't coming to have movies anymore.
So where would it be? Like he had his own building that he'd have? Or where would
He used to have it at the hall.
Oh, at the hall, okay.
Yeah. He had a big, like a big canvas or something, and it was like a projector thing, eh? And it was always a Western movie.
And did you guys have popcorn and things like that when you were a kid?
Yeah, popcorn and Granny made it. Mentioning popcorn, our Christmas tree was always put up only on Christmas Eve in the afternoon.
Oh, okay.
Never had a Christmas tree or it was out in the afternoon. And Granny would make popcorn and she'd dye it different colors with food coloring, and we'd string it. We had a darning needle and a string, and we'd decorate our Christmas tree. And the first star that we had for our Christmas tree that I remember is Grandpa Boyer made the star, and then he covered it with silver paper. Oh. And Granny put some tinsel around it to make it shiny. That was our Christmas tree.
What was your Christmas like? What did you guys do for Christmas?
Christmas was always quite a big day. We'd go to midnight mass. Mass was always at midnight.
On Christmas Eve?
And then we'd always have a réveillon after midnight mass. And then, of course, we hung up our socks. And Christmas morning we get up and we check our socks as if we'd have candies and nuts and a Jap orange in our sock. And we had Christmas presents, but they weren't big Christmas presents like kids get nowadays. Maybe we'd get a coloring book with crayons, or if we were lucky we got some watercolors and maybe a doll or something, but I didn't care if I got a doll or not, it was my dolls. And that was about it.
Can you talk more about the meal you said you had after Mass?
Réveillon?
Yeah.
Granny always had a chicken and a ham cooked for after church.
And this is at like 1 in the morning?
More like, Mass was always about 2 hours.
Oh, okay.
So this was about 2:30 to 3 o'clock in the morning when we'd be having and Granny always had homemade buns.
So you'd eat
and
ham and
chicken. Well, it would be a roasted chicken, like cold chicken, like. And generally it was pie.
And was it just your immediate family, or was there a group
just
of
the
you?
immediate family?
Okay, so
Yeah.
you'd come home from church, and you'd have this meal together, and hang your socks, and then you'd go to bed?
Yeah.
Oh.
Not too exciting.
So how come you had a meal that late? Why is that?
It was just a tradition, I guess. We always had a meal after.
Is that a Métis tradition, would you say?
It must have been, or else it came from the European ancestors, you know, the French, the Scottish people. It was probably carried down, you know, from the Métis in the Red River settlement and that. It was probably a European thing.
So what are some traditions that you say are Métis that you and your family participated in?
Oh, Well, and then Christmas Day, dinner was just mostly a light lunch or something, but then supper was big roast turkey, and the aunties would always come. My grandpa's sisters,
Mm-hmm.
they always came for Christmas supper with their kids or whatever, and that was a fun time. The older people always played cards and stuff, and us kids, well, we play board games. Eh?
And what kind of food did you guys eat on Christmas supper?
Oh, well, we always had a big roast turkey with all the trimmings.
Because isn't your stuffing that you make? I was always under the impression that it's like a Métis stuffing. Is that
Mhm.
true?
Yeah.
So what's different about it? About the stuffing that would make it
Well, most people make a stuffing mostly with bread stuffing, eh?
right?
And the Métis stuffing, they generally use the giblets, and they chop up the giblets, cut them really, really fine, fry them in butter, and then they put some onion with it and some mashed potatoes and some bread and that was and then later on when they wanted to make bigger batches they added hamburger to it. Like a lot of people didn't want the giblets anymore, they just used the hamburger and the onions and we never used poultry seasoning, it was always sage.
Oh, okay.
Beef. That was the spice that we used. And that was the meaty stuffing because there was always potatoes added to it and bread and stuff. So. And it's much better than just the bread stuffing.
Yes, it is. So what else are like Métis traditions or?
Well, New Year's was a really exciting day. We got up early in the morning, we went to church, and when we got back from church, we always have bullets and bangs. That was a big meal. We had these bullets and bangs. And I remember Grandma Boy, when she made bullets, they were this big. You
So
ate
what's that? What is that? Boulette.
big meatballs.
Okay.
And the meaty meatballs are just a hamburger with onions and a bit of flour, salt and pepper, and then they boil them. But I always remember my grandma Boy's bullets, they were huge. You ate one and you have plenty.
And what are bangs?
Bangs, they're a meaty donut with no sugar. They're not sweetened or anything. It's a dough, a fried dough. And it's a special dough. It's a very hard dough that you mix with flour and milk and lard and some salt. And you have to roll it not about a quarter of an inch thick. But it's hard rolling the baked dough. You really have to roll hard. It's very tiring. And then you deep fry it. Like the Métis, they always use beef fat to cook their bangs. But now, the younger generation, they use oil. But I think it's because oil is low in cholesterol. It's not heavy like the beef fat.
And were you all cooking together? Like, was it your aunties and your mom and you that would cook together, or how did that work for these meals?
For the Christmas meal?
Or the New Year's one, or?
Well, no. It was like Granny Boy did everything.
Oh, really?
Oh yeah. And it was an assortment of pies. Always lots of pies. You make about 20 pies before Christmas and freeze them. We didn't have freezers, but they'd put them out in the shed and in a big crock or something, those You know what I mean? Those big crocks there,
I think so.
they're about this high, big, heavy crocks. And they'd store the pies in there. Once they were frozen, they stored them in there and have a good cover on them. And oh, New Year's, and then you got lots and lots of visitors. And you either have homemade wine or homebrew to treat the visitors, and there'd be singing and dancing and food on the table all day long. It was a real come and go thing. And it was lots and lots of fun. And the head of the family always said the benediction. He blessed the family in the morning. Like Grandpa Boyer, when we had New Year's, Grandpa Boyer always did a blessing in the morning. And when Grandpa was in the army, Grandma Boyer did the blessing because she was the elder of the family. She did the blessings. Or benediction or whatever they call it.
So when he was, you said when he was in the army, so where was he? Where did he go?
England.
He went to England?
Mm-hmm.
How long was he gone for?
For 4.5 years. So my dad wasn't really around when I was a teenager. By the time he came back from overseas, I was finishing my grade 12. And I got into teachers college because when I graduated from high school, I was only 16 years old. And I had high marks, and there were applications being made to go to teachers college. And then they told me, well, I don't think you're going to have a chance. You're too young. You have to be 18 by the 1st of January to be admitted to teachers college. It was called normal school then. I said, I don't care. I'm going to put in my application and go from there. I said, with my marks. 2 weeks later, I got a word that I was accepted. I was accepted on account of my marks were so high.
Oh, nice.
So I was lucky.
So where did you go for college?
For my first semester, I went to Moose Jaw. Then I taught school for a year on a temporary certificate.
Okay.
And then I was teaching for $900 a year. And then had to save money. I had to pay my board, buy some clothes, and that's the year we hit with the income tax. So it wasn't a big income tax taken off my check, but it was $10 a month, just the same. Had to pay my superannuation fees, my SDs, and have a bit of spending money. And I had to save money to go back to teachers college for the next semester, and to have for my board and room in Saskatoon. Oh, I didn't have any money. I didn't have any spare money to go anyplace, really. I didn't go do very much. Well, there was nothing to do, really, anyway. So.
Hold these Métis hands. We're all held together by love, by this land. We are family. We're all family.